Death is a solemn, often spiritual occasion, but afterward comes the more mundane problem of what to do with the body. Though burial and cremation remain the most common ways to dispose of a corpse, many people have tried to come up with clean, green, cost-effective, and personal ways to dispose of our mortal remains. But it's not always as easy as you may think, no matter what method you try. But if you want to go out in a unique way, or for your remains to be put to good use, then you may want to consider the following options. If you always wanted to be an astronaut, you might want to consider spending eternity as a speck of space dust. For around $2,500, you can send your cremated remains into space. For that, you will receive a custom-made ash capsule to hold your ashes. The capsule will then be loaded into a satellite and sent off into the cosmos. There is even an opportunity to have your name engraved on the satellite as a memorial. After the satellite has reached the end of its life circling the planet, it will burn up on re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, and your remains will light up the sky as a shooting star. However, one company is also offering a service which releases the capsule of ashes with a parachute from the edge of space, so that you can enjoy one last wild ride. You might decide that, rather than trying to get rid of your remains, you will turn them into something useful. Instead of being buried in a coffin with a gravestone to mark the burial place, you could be interred in a biodegradable egg and turned into plant food to nourish a tree. The egg breaks down after burial and provides all the nutrients that a growing sapling needs. The Victorians had a fascination with creating keepsakes from the dead and often designed and wore jewelry made from their loved one's hair. Luckily for us, modern science has devised a more aesthetically pleasing thing. You can become a diamond. The human body is made up of mostly water, but 18% of it is carbon, the same element from which diamonds are made. Carbon is extracted from the created remains and then treated under high heat and pressure, just as if it were being compressed within the earth. Resumation is a kind of water cremation, which involves dissolving human remains in a water-based alkaline solution. The body is placed in a pressurized vessel containing potassium hydroxide and heated to 152 degrees Celsius. After only around 3 hours, the body is reduced to bones, which are then ground into white powder. The process uses less energy than cremation and produces fewer emissions, so it is good for the environment. At the end of the process, the ground-up skeleton is presented to the families, who still have to decide what to do with it. Burial at sea seems a good option. If you don't like getting your feet wet, you could always try cremation, or freeze-drying your remains. The proposed method of cremation would use liquid nitrogen to freeze-dry your corpse while extracting the water, which comprises 60% of our bodies. Bodies would be frozen at around -200 degrees Celsius so that they become extremely brittle. They would then be vibrated with sound waves until they turn to dust. The dust would be collected and handed back to the family. You could put the dust in a biodegradable coffin and bury it so that it turns into compost in around a year. Perhaps you would like your remains to be put to good use. There have always been opportunities to donate your body to medical science, but if you fancy something a little more eye-catching, you could sign up to become one of Gunther von Hagen's plastinated anatomical figures. Von Hagen's developed a technique to remove all bodily fluids and soluble fats from tissue and replace them with vacuum-forced injections of plastic into the empty tissue cells, so that they harden. Von Hagen's had thus invented a way of preserving anatomical specimens so that they could be handled and examined in the open air, rather than peered at through a jar. Gunther von Hagen's has himself expressed a desire to be plastinated when he dies and has said that he would like to be placed at the entrance to his exhibitions as a kind of macabre greeter. He is not alone. So far, around 17,000 people have signed up to have their remains turned into anatomical studies, including the scientist's wife and family.